One advantage I have with my fan base is they are able to help point me in the direction of shows they think are deserving of reviewing, especially with material I don't have a great deal of information about. And as embarrassing as this may sound, that includes picking out the worst episodes from more recent seasons of The Simpsons. Yeah, I hear all the time that current Simpsons is bad, but I admittedly couldn't tell you the biggest examples off the top of my head. For those not aware, my relationship with The Simpsons has been up and down. I remember when it first aired in the late 80s and watched a lot of it in its first season. But by the second year, I was really starting to dislike it. I was a pretty big goody two-shoes as a kid, and seeing as how the early seasons were all about Bart and his causing trouble all the time, getting very little comeuppance, just wasn't for me. Believe it or not, it was the Springfield Gorge episode that turned me off to the show. Then, many years later, I dared to check out the late night reruns, and when I saw that the focus of the show had turned more to Homer and his lovable bumbling over the years, I found myself being able to enjoy it more. Still, as has been the case with many TV shows, the syndicated reruns were my source of watching The Simpsons, and I rarely caught original airings on Fox. I think the Futurama crossover was the only episode in the last 10 to 15 years that I had to see in first run. Because of this, I sometimes have to take the word or suggestions of fans as to what episodes of this show are worth reviewing, outside of the most famous ones like The Principal and the Pauper. Which brings us to this Patreon request, The Strong Arms of the Ma. I watched it, and while I get the one reason this was requested, there actually was another reason I found as to why this episode's ending just grinded my gears. The episode begins with Rainier Wolfcastle announcing he's bankrupt and having a yard sale, which naturally Homer has brought the family to shop at.
Whoa, a sword cane!
Everything here is sword. So it's baseball bat?
Man, that's nothing. Get back to me when they have lasers. Homer is looking for stuff that will go up in value after Wolfcastle kicks it, which may actually be the most sensible money-making scheme he's had. So Rainier shows him his first weightlifting set. Now, if only his very first bottles of steroids used were available, those would really be worth something. Homer buys it, along with everything else he can afford and stuff into the car.
This is what all those hours of playing Tetris were for.
I'm with you there, Homer! And people say video games can't teach you anything. Must resist playing history joke. But Homer didn't leave room for himself, and thus has to be carried home by Wolfcastle because that's not creepy at all. Meanwhile, as she's driving the rest of the family home, Marge has to change Maggie's diaper at the Quickie Mart, and when she comes out...
Give me your purse.
I'm gone.
Shut up.
Because there's nothing more threatening than a mugger in a Goofy hat. Seriously, dude, why you gotta drag Goofy into this?
Up. Fine. I'll just take this.
So because she got mugged, Marge naturally develops a fear of going outside, which leads to her just shutting herself indoors.
And you parked on top of the mailman.
It's okay, all part of the job. Can you believe I get paid to wear short pants?
Although the reference to the Burgess Meredith Twilight Zone episode, yeah, this is one time where I'll say Family Guy did it better.
After a few practice trips here, the real Quickie Mart will be a piece of cake. Now, Bart will play Apu.
Mm-hmm. I'm a magazine rack.
Look, I'm the first to admit it, I don't write good parts for women.
Damn it, I already made one Family Guy joke! No surprise that Homer's attempts don't work and Marge retreats all the way into living in the basement. And keep in mind, living down there wasn't always fun and games. This was in 2003. Facebook and YouTube hadn't been invented yet. But what is down there are those weights Homer bought. Wow, who would have guessed those would come back into play in this episode? So, like anyone trapped in a prison, be it real or in one's own mind, Marge eventually retreats into pumping iron. And as you would expect, one way or another, this leads to her being able to leave the basement and the house.
I'm not afraid.
What you been up to? Living in fear?
Not anymore.
Oh great, now I'm getting images of sexy Star in my head. Oh, and I have to love how they included Herman in this scene to make it absolutely sure he's not the same as the mugger.
Stop! He's already dead.
But still, 2 acts in, and this actually doesn't seem like a bad episode. It's about overcoming fear and finding a new confidence in oneself, and I really don't see why someone would give this a bad rap.
Marge Simpson? It's Ruth! Ruth Powers! You know, another 4 inches on your neck and you look pretty hot. Thought of competing?
I don't have those kind of muscles.
Well, you could if you use these.
Yep, they're going there. Sure enough, Marge runs into her old Thelma and Louise buddy Ruth, who gets her into steroids, which I'm pretty sure do not come in liquid form right out of the bottle. And the whole 3rd act is about Marge going from weightlifting as a pastime to obsessive bodybuilding, and she basically turns into She-Hulk. Yeah, this was at a time when the creators for some reason seemed to have a thing for changing Marge's body. I think this was the same season that they gave her a boob job.
Good luck, Snuggle.
I'd rather talk about our feelings. I feel that illegal performance-enhancing drugs are too common these days. Rebuttal? Did you...
Let's do it.
Ha ha ha! Implied sexual assault is funny because it's girl on guy and it's Homer. Yeah, this is the actual reason why this episode was requested. And the worst part about this scene, it's never mentioned again. Sexual assault is a throwaway gag. Classy! Eventually, Marge takes 2nd place in some bodybuilding talent competition, and when Homer takes her to Moe's of all places afterwards, she rants about how she's going to push herself even farther so she can actually win next time, and sadly, Moe can't keep his mouth shut.
I don't got enough booze in this place to make you look good.
Maybe death will stop.
You know, I find it hard to believe that this is the worst brawl to ever take place at Moe's. And of course, seeing what she's done and what she's become to convinces Marge to not just give up the roids, but weightlifting altogether, actually burning the weights in the furnace, which I'm sure is perfectly safe. Yeah, even with everything else, this is what gets me the most about this episode. The 3rd act ultimately demonizes everything Marge did that helped her give her confidence again, not just saying that she simply took it too far and that moderation can be a good thing. I know, The Simpsons does status quo is God as blatantly as any show out there, but this one is just a slap in the face. Again with the boob job episode, it seems like this season tried to use Marge as some tool to speak out against artificially enhancing your body or something, but this one just goes too far in sacrificing what had been a pretty good story about overcoming fear and building confidence back up. So, should Marge have never started weightlifting to begin with? Should she have just stayed in that basement and done nothing for the rest of her life? Something tells me the 19th season of The Simpsons may have been written by a bunch of basement dwellers, if this episode is any indication.